Hello my lovelies and welcome back to Brittany Oriel. Thank you for tuning in yet again to another one of my videos. So in today's video we're going to be talking about anxieties and fears. Anxiety is a word that tends to be thrown around very often. From the time we feel some form of anxious feelings, we tend to slap a label on it and say we have anxiety. So I wanted to give you all a better understanding of exactly what anxiety is. In my perspective, the more knowledge you have is the better, or the more tools that you will have to conquer your anxious feelings. So we want to replace anxiety with anxious feelings. And I also wanted to go through the anxieties and fears because they're very different types. It's not just one big broad anxiety. So if you'll kind of understand what little types of anxieties and fears that you'll have, you'll maybe better able to grab back some control, because it is your body, it is your mind, and it is your peace. So without further ado, let's begin. Anxiety is a vague sense of apprehension, like if something bad is going to happen, and it's a kind of combo between psychic tension as well as physical symptom. And anxiety is classified as a symptom of a mental illness. So everyone has some form of anxiety. Why? Because we need it to protect ourselves. Anxious feelings help us figure out when we're in danger, and it helps us reduce the negative consequences that we may get if we are in danger. It kind of activates that fight, flight, or freeze response. So whether you're gonna stand up and pick a fight, whether you're gonna run away, or whether some people just freeze when they're panicked. Now, those anxious feelings that is natural and common in everyone becomes anxiety when it becomes very unpleasant, when it persists over a long period of time. So it's not a period where something, let's say you see a dog, a stray dog that looks angry, and you have anxious feelings. Now, if you're walking down the street, there is no sign of a dog, but you have this overwhelming anxiety. You leave the street, you go somewhere else, and whole day for a long period of time you have these anxious feelings. That's when it goes from normal anxious levels to some form of anxiety. Anxiety happens in a cycle, and if you understand this cycle, this is where you're going to gain back control over your anxious feelings. The aim is to stop the cycle before it starts. So there are 5 types of cycles. Body cycles based on bodily reactions, psychological cycles, of course, based on your psychology, emotional cycles, your emotions, social cycles based on social settings, and behavioral cycles based on, of course, a behavior that you do. So how the cycle works, it begins with a trigger. There is something that happens, something that you see, something that you think about, something that you feel that triggers your anxiety. Now, if you are able to identify what your triggers are, you gain a lot of control over your anxiety and understanding, but we'll get into that later on. So something triggers your anxiety and you have a reaction. Everybody has very different reactions or similar reactions to anxious feelings. So when you have this reaction, let's use a reaction for your chest is hurting. So they start with a trigger. So let's say they see a clown and their chest starts to hurt. When their chest starts to hurt, they jump to a conclusion that I'm going to have a heart attack. Now, if you think you're going to have a heart attack, you're going to get even more anxious. So you think you are going to have a heart attack, your chest is tightening, but now you begin to feel lightheaded. Now your chest is tightening and you're feeling lightheaded, so you come to a conclusion that for sure I'm going to have a stroke. And the more you think that you're going to have a stroke, now you might, let's say you start to shake. But I want you to see the cycle. So a trigger happens, one reaction happens, you make a very grand conclusion about your health or your safety or your danger. And then based on that conclusion, you make yourself even more nervous and you trigger another reaction. So how do we break that cycle? We break that cycle by recognizing 1, what our triggers are, and 2, what are our physical or psychological reactions to stress. Everybody has different reactions to anxious feelings. So some people have bodily reactions. So this bodily reaction might be, you might start to sweat. Some people's stomach starts to feel uneasy. Their head might become lightheaded. They might feel nauseous. Some people actually poop or release gas. I know it sounds kind of funny, but I'm talking to somebody out there that has that reaction to stress. So normalize these terms so that people feel free to talk about it. So there's a whole list of body cycles and body reactions. So think about what happens in your body physically when you are feeling stressed out. Then we have psychological reactions to stress. So psychological reactions to stress occur when we tend to overestimate the danger and we underestimate our ability to cope. So some examples, now there's a long list of psychological reactions, but some examples are scanning. So scanning is when all of a sudden you start to look for the thing that you are afraid of. So I can use my own example. Now I'm afraid of frogs. And when I go, let's say I'm walking outside in the night, I will look for a frog. So in my head, frogs always follow me. However, I always look for frogs. So that's one example of scanning. Then there is self-blame, which is basically self-explanatory. So something happens and you blame yourself. It mightn't even have anything to do with you. It's out of your control, but you start to blame yourself. Or some people begin worrying and worrying, and then because they're worrying, they start to worry some more. And then there are people that blow up a situation. So something happens, let's say you walk into the office and your boss looks a little bit upset. In your head, your mind goes a mile a minute and creates a scenario where he's gonna call you into the office and he's gonna fire you and you're not gonna get paid, and then he's going to write a bad review of you on LinkedIn. Or pointers it's a huge scenario that has no reality at all, but you take something very small and blow it up to something very big. Then there are behavioral reactions. So some behavioral reactions are biting nails. Some people fidget, and it goes an extreme of actually self-harm. So there are different types of self-harm. When we think of self-harm, we tend to only think about cutting on the wrist. Some people cut elsewhere so that nobody sees, and there are other forms of self-harm like pulling out their hair, punching themselves. That's a whole other video on its own. And then there are other behavioral reactions like reaching for stimulants or reaching for alcohol as well. And of course, avoiding a situation, a person, or a place is also a behavioral reaction. And lastly, there are particular social settings that cause anxiety. So some examples of this can be as intimate as an interview setting, or as public speaking, or as social as a social gathering, a family gathering. These particular situations create anxiety. So tying back in and to close off this part of this video, anxiety happens in a cycle. Something triggers your anxiety. So I want you all to ask yourself, what are your triggers? And a good guide of what are your triggers are going to be the types of anxiety and fears that we're going to talk about after this. So now we're going to talk about anxieties and fears. Anxieties and fears can be mistaken as just anxiety. But the more you understand the different types of anxieties and fears, the better equipped you're going to be able to control these feelings. So anxieties and fears are both emotional alerting signals that our body and our mind have. However, they are very distinct. Anxiety occurs when there is some unknown danger. You don't even know what it is not even present, but there is some emotional danger that you are suspecting or that your body is responding to. Whereas with fears, you know what the danger is, you know what the threat is, and as just like anxiety, there is some emotional tension. So fears are an actual response to danger. Now, just because in your head it's danger doesn't mean it really is danger. So now we're going to very briefly go over 8 types of anxieties and fears. So in no particular order, first off, we have phobias. Phobias are some out of proportionate fear. You try to avoid it, you think that it's dangerous, you think that it's going to harm you. And most of the time, like I would have mentioned before as a psychological reaction, when someone has phobias, they tend to scan, which means they look everywhere they go because they think it's somewhere there. Now, people have a whole range of phobias, from inanimate objects to animate objects. So some people have a phobia against blood, against water. Now, some of these phobias are rooted in a negative experience and some aren't. So there's some phobias against cotton balls. So I can guarantee you a cotton ball never attacked them. However, you never know if maybe a cotton ball ended up in a young child's mouth and their throat and almost choked them, so they had some childhood experience like that. Or pertaining to water, maybe they can't swim, maybe they witnessed someone drowning. There are a million reasons as to why people have phobias. There's even a phobia that people may have of leaving a safe space. And this particular phobia is called agoraphobia. Now, I really hope I'm pronouncing that right, but I will put the spelling up. So this safe space may be a home, it may be a school, it may be a car, and in your head, you think something bad is going to happen. Whether you're going to be embarrassed, no one would like you, or you're going to be in harm's way. There's a whole list of reasons, but that's a phobia. That's not necessarily afraid or rooted in something physical, but it's an experience. Now, those that have phobias, be mindful that a technique that people use, which is not a recommended technique at all, is Dutch courage. Dutch courage refers to people that tend to drink in order to become more courageous or more brave to go out somewhere. So that is very in tune to people that have agoraphobia. So if they know that they have to leave for whatever reasons, be it school related, work related, family related, they may tend to drink before they leave home so that they're a little bit more loose and relaxed and not as afraid. Now again, I'm not recommending it, but I am telling you that that is a technique to be mindful of with people with phobias. Next, we have panic disorders. Panic disorders are a combination between emotional and physical symptoms. It's rooted in fear or some expectation of danger, an overwhelming feeling of panic and disarray. And I'm going to put up a picture to show you all a whole variety of responses, both emotionally and physically, that you may have to panic disorders. And I would say that I myself have experienced panic attacks, which is something that is common in panic disorders. Now, I'm not saying I don't have panic disorder, I don't at all, but as I would have said in the previous video, everyone has a tinge of a few of these anxieties and fears. So don't diagnose yourself, and I'm not diagnosing you at all, but the more you understand where your fears and anxieties are rooted in, the better you'll be able to become the best version of yourself. So when I have panic attacks, my tongue becomes very heavy, like a sandbag, like, you know, when a sandbag is so heavy that you can actually press it and it has an imprint in it. So that's one symptom. I start to hear myself in third person. So like if you're hiding in a bathroom and hearing somebody speaking in the shower, like that's the best analogy I can say, like that kind of distant hearing. And I also feel very inside, like I feel like my vision on a normal is right here, like I can see from here, but when I have an anxiety attack, I feel like I go inside and like I see like a zoomed out version of what I'm looking at. I also start to do this. So pertaining to the first part of this video, you would have heard about bodily reaction. So this is a bodily reaction. So I start to rub my hands together like this, and sometimes my feet, I clench my toes, and it doesn't help. So when I feel a panic attack coming on as of recently, within the past, like I will say year to two or more, I am able to recognize my responses and stop this, because this makes me panic more. The more I continue, I'm pretty sure that I could do this right now and bring on a panic attack if I continue. But yeah, those are just a list of the many emotional and physical responses people may have in a panic attack within panic disorder. Next, we have social anxiety. So social anxiety pertains to a very large feeling of feeling shy, to the point where you are fearful and you worry about the amount of negative consequences that may come out of you being in a social setting. So people with social anxiety, when they're in social settings, they become very self-conscious and insecure. They think no one's going to like them, they think they're going to embarrass themselves, and they even start to convince themselves that everyone in the room is talking about them or looking at them with a negative lens. So some examples of these settings might be, people might be nervous to speak in public, to do public speaking, to even eat out in a restaurant, to go to a family gathering, to go to a classmate gathering, whatever it may be, different social settings for different people. And I'm sure that some of us experience some form of anxiety when we have to leave our home and go outside especially when we're going into a room with strangers that never met us before. We may walk in and we may feel very self-conscious about how our hair is looking, how is our makeup looking, how is our clothes looking, is my tag sticking out, am I walking okay, am I slouching too much, am I too loud, am I too quiet, is my head down, am I making enough eye contact. All of these things may go on in a normal person's mind, but someone with social anxiety, it's disabling to the point where they don't want to go in public. They may have panic attacks when they go in public. They may faint, they may come up with a barrage of excuses just to avoid social settings. Next we have hypochondriasis. Hypochondriacs experience health anxiety. They tend to overestimate any body sensations that they may have and come to very drastic conclusions about their degrading health. So they may experience, let's say, a stomach ache, and in their mind they may have cancer. They may experience a pain in their lower abdomen, in their head they have appendicitis. So these people tend to scan their body very often, whether it's looking for lumps, feeling for sore spots. You wake up, you have a sore throat, you think that something grand is happening, and you tend to go to the doctor very often. And even when you go to the doctor and the doctor says nothing is wrong, you may go back home, feel it again, and come back and insist that something is wrong. And I think the worst thing for a hypochondriac to do is to Google their symptoms, because we all know when we Google something, either we dying, we have cancer, we pregnant, we infertile, what else it could be, we have some disease, I don't know. It just, Google never helps. So I don't recommend you all to use Google to get any health advice, especially if you know that you have some form of health anxiety. So understand that health anxiety sometimes are rooted in a family history of health problems. So if you know that you have a family history of cancer, of diabetes, of some form of anxieties or fears, these things play on you because you know that your genes may carry these things, so you become extra sensitive. So of course it's good to be safe, so of course go to your doctor, but trust the medical advice. And again, when you are in an anxious or fearful state, your physical symptoms are going to be heightened because you're going to be tense, you're not going to be relaxed, you're probably not going to be breathing properly. So just keep that in mind before you jump to grand conclusions, and understand that words have power. So stop saying that you have X, Y, and Z, because it's a high chance that the world is going to bring it back around and you're actually going to have it. So just be mindful. Next we have generalized anxiety disorder. So this is a popular diagnosis in our population because we worry a lot. So yes, we have people with social anxiety or hypochondria or phobias and all these things, but most of the time when people say they have anxiety, they think they have generalized anxiety disorder. So generalized anxiety disorder, also known as GAD, pertains to consistent worry or concern, and it also characterized by a number of symptoms. And again, I'm going to put up a picture to help you all. So in generalized anxiety disorder, we tend to worry, and then the more that we worry is the more that we worry. And when you're in a state of worrying, you cannot solve problems. So your problems persist and you just continue worrying without coming up with real solutions, understanding where your worries come from, where your concerns rooted in. All you care about doing is worrying. Next, we have obsessive compulsive disorder. This is a very common term used because from the time we want things a particular way, or we know somebody that wants their home looking a particular way, or you have OCD. So OCD is a strong compulsion to do something, or a strong desire to dwell on thoughts or mental pictures. So I'll talk about 4 different types of OCDs. Hoarding is a type of OCD. Hoarding is when we keep a lot of stuff. So there are people that just hoard everything. There are people that don't throw away boxes or packaging. There are people that hoard products that probably come down to the end and they never throw them away. There's a whole range of stuff that people hoard. So hoarding is rooted in OCD. Then we have people that are obsessed with cleaning. But again, this is not clean freaks that you all like to label as OCD. These are people that have a serious rooted fear of contamination. They think that if it is they don't keep their place clean, sanitized, disinfected. Now I could just imagine how these people are feeling in the midst of this pandemic. But they feel that they are going to be in danger if they don't take these many numerous obsessive steps of remaining clean. Then we have people that are obsessed with symmetry. So there are people that need their closets to look a particular way, that need their books to look a particular way, that need their counters, everything laid out in a unique way, and if it's off, they basically lose it. They cannot function. It's not a matter of getting upset and redoing everything. They actually might have a panic attack. They might shut down. They might freak out if it is they don't. Why? Because they fear danger. They think that some danger is going to come out of them not keeping their things in a particular symmetry. And lastly, there are people that are obsessed with check-in. So this is the most commonly known form of OCD because there are a lot of shows that were done on this type of OCD. So these are people that have to lock their door 3 times and then get up and check twice. There are people that have to go and make sure that their stove is off 5 times. They go the first time and it's off and they go back in their room, but they feel need to go back again. Or there are people that have to switch off all the lights or maybe flick it 3 times, 4 times, whatever the case may be. Now understand that the basis of OCD are people that overestimate the threat of danger, and they think that if anything happens, it's going to be their responsibility. So if you have someone or know someone that has OCD and they are left home and they didn't go through their ritual of checking the stove 3 times, don't just dismiss them. Go back home because they are no way are going to be able to function, because in their head a fire is going to break out, the entire house is going to be burned down, and it's going to be their fault. Now I'm not saying that I have OCD, but I am one that has to go and check to make sure that a door is locked even after I check it the first time. And if I don't, I'm going to lie down in bed and I'm going to think that somebody is going to come in, something bad is going to happen, it's going to be my fault because I didn't check the door. It's the same thing with my car alarm. I will take off my car, I will switch my car, well, press my car alarm to go off, and while I'm walking away, probably press it another time, and when I'm in the building, if the car is close by, I'll probably press it again to make sure and hear it, because in my head, what if I didn't? Somebody goes into the car and steals the car or steals something in the car. So it might sound petty to some of y'all, but understand that this is just how some minds work, and have some empathy and compassion for them. So second to last one we're going to discuss is post-traumatic stress disorder, better known as PTSD. PTSD is a stress reaction, sometimes and most times followed by a traumatic event. So PTSD deals with having flashbacks or dreams or negative responses or panic attacks coming just from the thought of that traumatic event. And it's like if you just can't get it out your mind. You're having dreams about it, you're replaying it in your mind, or you're walking down the street and you remember it and you have a freak out. So understand that not all the time PTSD comes from a grand event like being in a war zone. Sometimes it comes from one negative experience. If somebody got into an accident, a car accident, they may have PTSD from that. Every time they go into a car, they might feel afraid an accident is going to happen. They may panic when it's happening, when they're driving. They may also have dreams and jump out of their dreams because they remembered or had a dream related to the accident that they experienced. There are people that may have had a traumatic childhood experience or a traumatic childhood on the whole. So let's say they hear the neighbor shouting at their child and they themselves start to cry and panic. Why? Because they had a very traumatic experience with child abuse when they were younger. But if you do have some form of PTSD, something bad happened, an accident happened, a dog attack, something that is troubling you, my recommendation is to sit yourself down, take a deep breath, and play it over in your mind. Because what happens is with the flashbacks, when we start to think of it happening, we get so afraid that we pull ourselves out of the thought rather than replaying it, letting it happen, understanding that it was an experience, having compassion for yourself, and allowing yourself the time, the energy, the love, the comfort to heal from that experience. And lastly, we have burnout. Burnout is something that came within our society recently because everyone thinks that it's very cool to be very, very busy. It is a reaction to a long period of stress. Most of the time, we don't know it's happening until we just explode. There is no suspicion of burnout because we're going from task to task to task. We're not sleeping right, we're not eating right, but we just going. And all of a sudden, our health begins to decline, our emotional stability begins to deteriorate. Our interpersonal relationships begin to deteriorate. We have no one, we don't recognize ourselves, and all of a sudden it just goes kaput really fast. So understand that burnout is unnoticed. There are no particular symptoms until it kicks in and manifests, and it just tends to creep up. So prioritize self-love, prioritize rest, even one day a week where you don't tend to any work and you just relax, whether that means sleeping in or doing something for yourself or spending time with those that you love that make you happy, watching a movie, whatever it is. In this society, we need to prioritize our mental health, our peace, our sanity. So as important as work is and as important as school is, prioritize, get what you have to get done, but treat yourself and balance your work and rest time. So to bring an end to this video, understand that anxiety is not just anxiety. There are many different types of anxieties and fears, and the more that you understand what symptoms that you have and which anxieties and fears your anxious feelings are rooted in, is the better able you will be to recognize what your triggers are and what your physical and emotional and psychological reactions are. Comment below what you think your triggers are and what particular anxieties and fears you recognize, whether they're within yourselves or within people that you know, or even within people that you see in shows that you watch. Thank you for tuning in yet again to another one of my videos. If you like this video, thumbs up, comment below, share with someone that you think may benefit from this information, subscribe, and I will see you soon. Bye guys. The different types of is the better able you will be symptoms. If they sneeze, they may think that, well, given the situation, that's just not a joke to make. No, it's really not. Courageous, of course. If I want to stop that cycle, I'm gonna have to stop breathing. No, I'm gonna have to